Becky, John, pop quiz. You don't have to answer, but who knows what that is? And that? Yep. I was going to say who knows that? That's John. Who knows what the haircut is? Okay, it's still fashionable in some parts of Logan. I can say that amongst friends from Logan. All right, and who remembers that? Okay, Sunday night, the DJs would always talk over the top of the song and you'd be there for hours. Who knows any of those brands? Yeah. What's the link between those first few slides and this slide? Yeah, they're all gone. What's the point, though, that you need to take out of tonight? These ones, I mean, particularly Kodak and to be frank, BlackBerry as well. I mean, they were absolute market leaders, but within like 2 years, they were gone. So my 80s slide, dating me a little bit, my 80s slide, all of those things were red hot for years. I mean, my Donkey Kong lasted for about 12 or 14 years. But these things, while they were hot, 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, have just absolutely disappeared overnight without a trace. About 14 or 15 years ago, I'm just a mug lawyer, as John said, I do tax and stuff. About 14 or 15 years ago, I was at an event like this, and we were experiencing turnover. I was a big gorilla firm, big law firm, and we were experiencing turnover at about 30%. In fact, if it got below 30%, we'd sort of walk around, chest out, saying, how good are we? And it was about an hour session, and I'm a slow learner, and I was concentrating all the way through, and I didn't get a lot of it. And what they said, the only thing you needed to remember is this: staff turnover and retention is gone. You do not need to worry about it, full stop. And I walked out, I was just gobsmacked. I walked out of there, I didn't get it for about 8 or 9 years. Maybe I'm a slow learner. And so you fast forward 8 or 9 years, and they were very desperate. I was working on probably the biggest corporate transaction in Australia at the time. We were coming up to, it was going to settle on the Tuesday, I vividly remember it. For my sins, I was down in Hobart. Actually, I wasn't even in Hobart. I was about an hour out of Hobart, wherever that is. I was probably in the water somewhere if you're an hour outside Hobart. And I'd lined up someone to do all my typing on the Sunday morning. So it was a Saturday, I'd worked all day Saturday. It was about 9 o'clock on the Saturday night. I'd finished everything. It was about 2 hours of dictation. I don't know if you remember, there was a documentary a few years ago called The Castle. I don't know if anyone remembers. It wasn't probably a documentary for everyone else. For the lawyers, it was a documentary. And there's a section in that where the guy talks into a dictaphone, and then because he doesn't have a typist, he has to turn around and actually do the typing himself. And that was a very sensitive moment in the movie for me. So this particular evening, I'd lined up a typist on the Sunday back in Brisbane, and they SMS'd me about 9 o'clock at night and said, I can't make it, and there's no one else that can do your typing. And I've sort of seen my entire career flash before me. But I did also see one other thing, and that was back to the late 1990s where they said retention is irrelevant, you do not need your staff. And I Googled transcription services, and this is what happened. Normally I would send the stuff in on a Sunday morning and I would get it back at about 8 o'clock on Sunday night. For the person I chose, randomly off the internet, I got 4 million hits. I had it back by 4 a.m. on the Sunday morning. Normally, in a 15-page document, I would have around 50 errors. I had 2 errors in the entire document. Normally, for that Sunday typist, I would pay about $1,200. It cost me $20. Okay, my journey to a virtual office had begun, and that was in 2007. Okay, now since then, and what I'm going to show you tonight, just a mug lawyer. Tara, one of the co-directors here, is a star at our place. I'm just a mug, and I don't really know a lot about anything, but what I'm going to try to show you is that even a mug lawyer, if a mug lawyer can do this, all of us should be doing it all the time if it's going to enable our business, and that's what this is all about. The 2 things I'd ask you to remember, so I don't know if retention's important or not. Okay, but what I do know is that in today's day and age, the compression of the way our businesses are moving is exponential. If BlackBerry can have 42% of the market, and now, what have they got now? Less than 2%. I mean, if you've got 42% of any market, you should never lose, and yet BlackBerry have lost. Okay, so that compression, what we had in the 80s where everything was in vogue for 10 years is gone. If you're in vogue for 10 months, you're in luck. So the only 2 lessons that I would ask you to take out of this is have a go, because if I could have a go, anyone can have a go, but not with content. Okay, not with content. So that's a tip for young players, because then we learnt that the very hard way. Everything else has been rewritten. Okay, so this 80-20 rule, it's just gone. This cost of holding product is gone. Okay, everything else, the world is flat, and I know that's a very old concept. What we tried to do is just bring a bit of rock and roll, I guess, to the legal industry. And then John probably touched on it or glossed over it. We're at a large all about people like each of you in this room being able to have a red hot go. Now, the only way we can do that, obviously, is if we've got access to an enormous range of resources and opportunities. So, what I said before about content, this is the slide that I go back to, and it's not original, I can't even remember where I got it from, but in terms of the manufacturing, that's what we do, and I'll walk you through some of the actual tangible takeouts about what we do. John said around 40, I was actually trying to do the maths, it's probably over 50, Tara, I don't know. We don't actually keep a red hot running number of it. If we need resources, we get resources. We make infinitely more mistakes than we get right, but that's the beauty of this stuff. So we've probably tried 600 or 700 providers over time and stuck with about 40 or 50 in one shape or another. But where we mainly focus it is in what we call manufacturing. Okay, so that's IT development, website development, branding, any sort of thing that is not content to our business. We say, well, who else can do this better? And our argument is not that offshoring or outsourcing, and a lot of our consultants are based in this country. This is not about trying to go and do a wage arbitrage. If you were doing this stuff to make money on someone's wage, you've missed the point. Okay, this is about having infinitely more power and enablisation in your business than you could ever hope to imagine to get if you didn't embrace technology. What it meant for us in the legal space particularly, and I don't know people in the room well enough, is that in the social media space I didn't entirely understand what a blog was. Okay, I'll show you in a moment where we're at now with that sort of thing. So what we needed to try to do in our space was really think a lot differently. And in the legal space, that's not actually that hard. Okay, well, the main thing I did was I stopped wearing a tie, and people sort of said, well, you're a radical person in the legal game. Let alone doing anything too much differently. So where do you start? Well, we just started with literally Googling blog, because we'd read about it for years, and we said, well, maybe this is something we need to get aware about, and we started where we're at. And we wanted to just be an infinitely tiny little bit, stop wearing the ties, different. Okay, and that was really the long and the short of it. And we're also willing to say, well, we're going to make a heap of mistakes here, but so what? Okay, we'll get that 360 feedback, so what? Let's have a go. How much longer? Righto. Oh, you like that one? Margaret's my paid. Cheers, God. Now, so you're not going to be able to read this up the back. I can't even read it down here. I'll just leave that up there for a minute. We are doing every single one of these, having started with nothing in 2010. Okay, so the transcription we were doing, and this is, I guess, the other lesson that we had. I thought, oh gosh, how innovative am I? I'm using this amazing transcription service on the other side of the world, and then sort of stopped. Since then, in the space of literally 4 years, we are doing something in every one of those formats and more. Okay, and we're a 4-partner firm. We're nothing. We're a startup. We started in May. So there's really no excuse at all. We've got specialists in every one of these areas. We're making a heap of errors that every time we make an error we go, that's good, but now we're a little bit closer to doing the next thing. So that's in an IT sense. That's our website. It's nowhere near John's website, but it cost $90 and it got us live within about 24 hours. Okay, so we get to stage 1. This is all about iterations. It's all about getting to the next stage. We are on most of those. Again, never outsource content, but I don't even know what a lot of those are. What it's about is making sure you've got people in your team to be driving a lot of this stuff for you. And that slide, someone will email me or link me or something afterwards and say, Matthew, that is so 2013, and you'll be right, because it's from last year, but I don't know most of them. So what do you do if you, and here's a number 1 error for you. Oh, I'm going to release good content, high quality content every single day. Good luck, okay, because that's what I started doing. It lasted about a week. You said, actually, this is really hard. If you're going to have content that people are going to actually use and you want to do it every single day, it doesn't last very long. But for me, our landing was we could do it once a week. 45 weeks of the year, once a week. And if you do that every single week for 4 or 5 years, and I'll just show you some of the tangible stuff that we've come up with, you get something like this that makes a sound. Okay, it's a business card that people can't throw out. They're at least going to regift it. Okay, so that's the consolidated version of every blog post that we've done. On top of that, we had so much other content in all the stuff. We've been doing this stuff for years. So we've now got books that are bestsellers. Actually, I'll give you one last story before I go. Okay, how much longer have I got, John? You've got enough time? And I'll save this for the end, and you can get, what we've also got is wine. I forgot about the wine. So that's a longer story. So you can, if anyone actually wants any of these products just to test if we're true to our word, there's the View Legal wine. One thing we can't outsource is people putting the label on the bottle. I don't know if you can see that. It's just hideous. And it's only marginally better than the wine. But anyway, I'm giving it away for free. Giving it away for free. There was no joke on that, unfortunately. I am actually a bestseller. Who's heard of 50 Shades of Grey? Yeah. Oh, you said that very quickly. Is your husband is here or not here? Oh, you've just heard about it. Right, okay. So I'll link back to that. There's a very tenuous link, but I'll link back to that before we finish. Because we've got countless books that we've released. All of that's then, I think we've got 5 apps. Apps on the iPhone. If you've got an iPhone, we've got apps coming out. Now, it's all basically the same content, but because we're leveraging 40 or 50 ideal people around the globe, we're able to reskin that content and make it, I guess, a format useful for who we're trying to get in front of. In your spare time, what that also means is you can live a few of your dreams. So I threw out the telly with our kids a few years ago, which meant the only way to get them to bed was to tell them stories. And if you're telling stories every night, I've got 500 kids' stories. Well, I've now got a series of kids' books that we flog around town as well. Okay, so it's just fun. It's all under my daughter's name, but it's just stuff. It's dreams that unless you've got an artist, unless you've got a branding consultant, unless you've got a designer, unless you've got a copy editor, unless you've got someone that does all the actual printing for you, you can't live your dreams. But if you can get all of that, each book costs about $2,500 all up, and I reckon that's cheap as chips to have a story to tell your kids, plus the website. Righto. So you've got to have your own website, of course, personal brand, and that's me. I'll finish with the 50 Shades of Grey. So who can you impress when you write a book? There is only one person, and it's your mum. So I'm there on a Sunday morning. I said, Mum, I've just released my first book. And the laughter just went on and on and on. And eventually she said, well, okay, Matthew, well, how many have you sold? And I said, Mum, it's Sunday morning. I released it Saturday night. I won't have sold any. She said, no. If you're a published author on Amazon, log on. Show me how many you've sold. I said, Mum, I'm not going to show you. No. Get out the iPad. Show me how many you've sold. So I get out the iPad and we log it in. And there's 10 sold, 20 sold, 50 sold. There's 75 copies sold. Okay, so this book that I've released, I said, how on earth? I'm still unsure as to exactly how I get that many sold. So I said, well, how on earth did this happen? We've gone back and done some 360. Our consultant in the Philippines, when they've logged it into Amazon to put it up, the book's called Inside Stories, Secrets from Inside one of Australia's biggest law firms. Now, the subtitle is Tax, Structuring, Asset Protection. She's put it in the adult section of Amazon. And the numbers have just gone through the roof. So my LinkedIn account's then got all these emails saying, this is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever read. So that's how you make a lot of money out of books.